How important is food tracking when it comes to IBD? Hello, everybody. This is Sherry Lip with Happy Gut for Life, and today I'm going to be talking about tracking as far as kind of managing our symptoms and knowing what our triggers are. But you know that tracking is not just food. We want to be looking at more than just what we're eating, although that's an important part of it, especially when we're coming to talking about writing things down and knowing what we're having. But the other things we need to talk about are our mindset, our stress levels, and like what's going on in our life, because those are all components that have to do with our gut health. So this is a topic I love because it's something that, when you have IBD, you feel like you're out of control. And so this is something that you can kind of take part in, take an active part in. I don't like to say controlling as much because we can't control everything in our life. And if we get too obsessed with control, then we get disappointed when things get out of control because we know we can't control everything. It's not the old saying. It's not controlling everything. It's how you react to it. Not a very good saying the way I did it there, but that's what that is. It's not, you can't control everything that happens to you, but you can control how you react to it. And so that's what we're kind of that factors into our gut health in ways we might not even realize because our gut is so central to our feelings. It's like I've talked about this before, but it's like if you're scared, your gut clenches up. The same thing happens, that fight or flight response happens to any type of stress, even if it's good. So we want to note that, like maybe even if something really exciting happens, your gut still reacts to it and it can actually kind of be like, shut off a little bit. So you're like, you ever get like really into something you're excited about? It's not a bad thing, but you're so into it, you like, oh, I didn't even eat. Like you're not even thinking about food at that moment. And so then when you go to eat, then you've relaxed. But sometimes when we're very stressed, we don't get that same response because we want to do something. So sometimes we eat when we're stressed, and that can cause some issues as the way we feel. So we want to kind of manage those things. The other important component um, is the food itself. And so we don't always know. I see a lot of people trying to pinpoint, well, I ate this. Is this what caused it? Can this cause problem? Watermelon or too many bananas. Did I eat too many bananas? Or I ate this one thing and I think that might have caused a problem. So, but we don't know. So I've developed some systems for myself where I start recording how I feel, what went on, what's going on. Because, like, I've talked about this in the past, but the one time I did have an actual little flare up of Crohn's after, I had 10 years of remission post surgery, and then I had a little flare up. And I had like kind of started eating whatever I wanted. But the other thing is, I had a lot of stressful things happen in my life. And those things are like, I had, my mom passed away. That was probably the biggest stressor I've ever faced at this point. And, we also bought a new house. I changed jobs. I got laid off. My dog passed away. I mean, there was all these stressful things going on. So it wasn't just food, it was everything. And maybe those are big things we kind of know, but maybe there's other little things that you kind of forget about. Maybe you had a disagreement with a coworker and the day went on, you kind of forgot about it, but maybe it left kind of a little physical feeling. So that is why I don't like to get overly obsessed with tracking, but I like to, we want to know where we're at. I think it is good. So I actually I've written 2 books now on it. One is brand new. It's just out now. It's my 90-day tracker. And so this tracker is more general. It is more about for anybody with IBD. It's geared towards IBD. You don't have to have IBD, but it is geared towards IBD. And it's a general tracker for whatever you're doing. And so what it has, I don't know if I can really show, I'll probably put something up on the screen here. It's got daily check-ins for food and for our body. You kind of see that there. there's a body check-in. And so we're talking about how we feel, the pains, what's going on, what did or didn't work that day. And then we have some weekly check-ins. And so that's a more general one. And I put that together for to have 90 days of, tracking, because and you can track, it has a symptom tracker, medication tracker, and then it has in the back it has where you can build your food list. So I have some food lists with different categories, so you can start building your lists of foods that work for you. And so that is my 90-day tracker. Is for everybody with IBD. And then I have a 6-week tracker. And I'll put the links to how you can get these if you're interested. This one, the 6-week tracker, is actually more part of a 6-week program I have. I've been trying to do that live, but I'm actually working on having a self-study one, because I've discovered that people kind of like to do self-study than trying to fit in times to meet and do it as a class where I'll set it up where I'll have the training and then I'll be available for questions, but it won't be so regimented, because we're trying to get away from regimentation kind of with de-stressing. So I am putting that together. So please let me know if you're interested in that. But you can use this book without that. It has the instructions in it. It has some food lists, which are really helpful. And this one is actually geared more towards SCD. You don't have to be SCD. There's a little bit of fine line if you're a little outside, like if you have like sweet potatoes and stuff like that. But this one is geared towards, it's an elimination for 4 weeks, very specific. But it's also geared towards not having the processed foods and gluten and sugar and stuff that we eliminate for SCD. Whereas the other trackers for anybody, you may not have eliminated all those things. It is for you to track, where this one actually has an actual 6-week program. It is outlined in here if you don't work with me directly, where we kind of have the same thing where we're kind of week by week tracking. We have week by week focuses. And that is how I do my tracking. And I really like the 6-week one because it is regimented and it has a very specific goal in mind. And I think goals are very important to keep people motivated. So I have those two things as resources. Now, you don't have to use those. Of course, I like you to use them because they're mine. But I also, I know that you have to buy them, but you can also track on your own. And so for me, the importance of tracking is that we are noting what we eat, how we feel, what's going on in our life, what works, what went well that day. It doesn't have to just be with food, and what didn't. And so those things are very important. The other thing is you kind of have to get yourself out of a judgment zone. Yes, you're going to know what went well and what didn't, but you're not going to beat yourself up about it. And that is the importance to me in the early stages of tracking. Even if you've been doing a CD for a while, you might want to track and to kind of see where you're at. I think all these things are very important. So that is what I want to share with you, is how, kind of how I go about doing that. So the goal of tracking is to help us pinpoint where our triggers are. That way we can kind of tell, like I was talking about before, sometimes we're like, we don't feel well and we're not really sure what caused it. And we start making guesses. So when we do the tracking, it gives us like kind of our full picture of not just food, but also stress and, what's going on in our life, and maybe even some environmental factors. If you went somewhere and there was a lot of air pollution, smoke in the air or something that's happening. Sometimes, I've lived in a place where it was closer to where there was a lot of wildfires, and so the air would get very smoky. And that can affect us too, even though it's going in, of course, it's affecting your respiratory system, but you're getting it into your body. So, just things to think about, like what's going on around us in the big picture, not just what we're eating. But we are tracking our food because it's our digestive system that is affected, that's having the symptoms. So we're tracking our food, and we're kind of seeing, what do we eat every day? And like I said, I don't want it to be, when you're first starting out with it, I don't want it to be a judgment zone. I mean, you can make adjustments, and try different things, but I don't want you to be judging yourself because that causes stress, like I said earlier. So like in the 90-day one, you're just writing down what you have and you're kind of tracking different food groups and seeing what you're kind of where you're at. I even have it broken down into like so proteins and vegetables and fruits, starches and or carbs and fats, just so you can kind of get you can that gives you the kind of the big picture of where you might be getting more of one or the other, because the goal is that we want a balanced diet. Even if we've eliminated some things, even if we don't eat everything, we still want to be as balanced as we can. That's the ultimate goal as we heal, is that we want a balanced microbiome. I've talked about that a lot, but it's very important because I think they get so into restricting and restricting and restricting. The restricting works, but is it doable long term? Also, sometimes if you're over restricted, it can start to not work so well because you're so limited in what you're eating. Your digestive system starts to not be able to handle. What if you become sensitive to something? You're so restricted, you don't feel like you can add anything else. So we want to. The other thing with a lot of restriction is that your system gets it won't be used to um, a variety of foods, and it can make it harder for it to digest because and there's all kinds of enzymes and there's bacteria. And so bacteria is actually not a bad thing. We want bacteria in our gut. It's just the balance that we're looking to get. So you want 80%, it's 80/20. Talked about this in an earlier episode. But you want like kind of the ratio to 80% good, the good, strong bacteria that keeps your gut healthy. And then 20%, it's not like you want bad bacteria, but they all work together. So the 20% actually has a purpose. But what happens is that those are the 20% is not necessarily bad, but it's the kind of bacteria that you don't want to start overgrowing and taking over, because it will deplete the good bacteria that's in your gut. And I'm thinking about doing like a little group class. So if you're interested in that and like kind of introducing, if you're SCD, but you're interested in introducing some beyond foods, maybe I'm thinking about doing like a little kind of closed group. So it's just people who are interested in that. And the people who are not don't have to like see it or be a part of it or feel like, I want everybody to feel confident in their choices. So, I don't want somebody to feel like they should be doing one thing or the other. It's where you are at. So if that's something you're interested in, please let me know in the comments or give me a message. Because I am going to, I'm really thinking about doing that because I think it'll be a good way to kind of get some people into some new things if they want to be without having to like make people uncomfortable if they're not in that place yet. But that's all part of tracking too. So that's the 90-day where it could be if you'd be following any eating plan or no eating plan, you just want to track what you eat. Or you could be SCD or paleo or GAPS, or just you've developed your own thing. Or you could just be tracking. But the 6-week protocol, that is actually, like I said, it's a guided course where we do some very specific elimination. And so we are going to, and then we do a reintroduction. So it's 30 days or about 4 weeks of the restriction, a very specified restriction. And then, so it's a week of prep, 4 weeks of the specified elimination, which actually may be a little different than SCD, and not foods that are not SCD, but just some slightly different honing. And then a week of, figuring out the next steps, like where you're going to reintroduce and what that is. So that's the 6-week program. So that's how that's different. So you're tracking, you're still doing the whole mind, body, spirit thing, but it's tracking in a slightly different way and it's more regimented. So if that's something you're interested in, the links will be in the comments. And you can definitely ask me about it. Like I said, I actually do like a 6-week course. You can go on your own on the book if you want. The book is not extremely detailed. It does outline it though, because that's really meant for me to help you through it. So I am working on maybe a self-study version of that instead of trying to get together in a group at a specific time. I know that's hard for a lot of people. So tracking is figuring out where you are at, because we are all individual. I stress that a lot because I see a lot of comparisons, online. And that's The good side of the group is getting that support and finding other people. The downside is that you fall into that comparison trap. Well, how long did this take for you? And did this work for you? And I can't eat this, but I can. And it gets kind of confusing. So I wanted to make something that would help an individual get to where they want to be. So that is my vision of tracking. That's what I like to do. That's where I got after a while, after kind of just winging it. And so, if you want help with that, please message me. I am happy to talk about it. Um, Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. That really helps me out to know if I'm providing valuable content to you. So, thank you so much, and be sure to tune in next time.